Hello,
Yeah.
guys.
Alrighty, so looks like we're gonna start. So we're here to talk about Star Wars Last Jedi, which I finally saw like a few weeks ago. Um, yeah, I was just
After
randomly.
the aftermath of good Star Wars discussion for the past year. Eesh.
Oh,
mm,
jeez.
So I don't know how exactly should we start it off.
Well,
Talking
what
about.
you're the no, you're the one who came the latest, so just tell us what you thought of the movie.
Um, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as people were saying. Like, I actually kind of liked it slightly less than The Force Awakens, but not for the reasons everybody was saying.
I think I could say I'm on the same boat. Yeah.
Steven?
Wait, what do you
Oh,
think, Steven?
well, I kind of mentioned it before, but eh, like okay, my problem with the movie isn't essentially with the movie itself, though there is problems with the movie, but it's more that as a franchise worker, Ryan Johnson essentially killed any hype I had for any future project because he focused so much on it being a deconstruction without actually putting anything new. So now when I look at all of the stuff he destroyed that was set up in The Force Awakens, what else is there to look forward to? Like, what's there to look into episode 9 that'd be worth it? Because now, whatever's going to come up is barely going to have any setup.
Care to emphasize, Steven?
Well, let's see. Like, we all know about the stuff that it deconstructed or subverted your expectations with, such as with with Luke not wanting to join, and the reason behind it why. But then Luke is gone in this movie. When it comes to Rey's parents, it's like, oh, it's just some hobos wanting some drinking money. So that whole intrigue with the lineage is now gone. Uh, Snoke, we barely knew anything about you. Bye
I
bye.
can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just a lot of stuff just stacks up to where like a lot of the stuff that Force Awakens tried to set up to be more grand or so. I get the reasoning why someone like Ryan Johnson would want to subvert your expectations, but in place of that, what else do you have to really think about that makes you want to go, oh, I want to see the next one right now? I don't really feel that kind of hype after seeing the movie, which is strange because at first I didn't mind it. I actually liked it quite a lot when I saw it, but over the year I just kept thinking it's like, yeah, I'm not really excited for the next one, and it's mainly because of what The Last Jedi did.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I think the moves that The Last Jedi made were kind of I don't know if there's a word for it, but it was just these kind of really dramatic moves that, I thought were gonna go somewhere from The Force Awakens. Like, I now see what you mean, Steven. But now
Mhm.
I mean, and of course I did put a spoiler warning at the very beginning of the video, so, we're not gonna do a three-parter, just like when we reviewed The Force Awakens before I
Yeah,
rebranded my
there,
channel.
there's enough discussion on The Last Jedi as is, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Well, how do you feel about that, Bobby and Gabby? Since you seem to like the movie more than I do, at least.
Well, I'll admit I kind of enjoyed the movie, kind of setting all of that, which you mentioned, aside. Like when I say that I enjoyed the movie, we're talking at a very like surface level basis. I absolutely understand why people didn't really enjoy it. Um, Heck, I mean, when Mark Hamill himself isn't even okay with some of the things in the film,
Honestly, I didn't. That stuff with Mark Hamill's character, while I get the problems, that's one of the few things I think the movie did well. for the most part. I mean, it's basically the idea of so Luke is supposed to represent the Luke is supposed to represent the optimistic hippie of his generation, and then basically this is like the worn out grandpa version of that. Like I can get why he got there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're talking about like how he wasn't really okay with the idea of specifically uh almost hurting uh
Kylo?
yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, because the main thing was, it's Luke. I mean, yeah, he's probably frumpy, grumpy, and old, but come on, you don't want to think of him as capable of murdering someone.
Well, I no, well, I do think back to how if you rewatch like the Return of the Jedi, and especially toward the end of The Empire Strikes Back, does he doesn't exactly become like an icon. He only reaches that toward the very end, but up until then, he's pretty impulsive and capable of murder until then. Like not
Yeah,
until he slices off Darth Vader's hand that he finally becomes who he is.
but under what context, though? We're not talking about a guy who's gonna like try to kill somebody in his own team,
Mm.
because Ben was given to him, trusted with him, like
Which is why I think,
he was
which is
trusted with him in order to like nurture him, raise him, give him guidance, and teach him.
which is why I think it's important to clarify that in the end he didn't. He thought it for a split second and then
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I think going back to it, that is why specifically, even though I can see why people wouldn't like that, even Mark Hamill, um, I think that it was taken extremely out of proportion.
Mhm.
Because like, yeah, okay, we didn't like it, fair point, but don't go around throwing smack because of that.
Well, Bobby, you want to chime into this?
Yeah, but basically I liked most of what they did with Luke. I even like where the if there's anything I like where they went with the characters. I do like this idea of Luke being and having to catch up on the original trilogy, but I've been catching up on what you guys have been saying. My sis has seen the original trilogy, so I get the basic gist of what's going on, in terms of, what happens in points A, B, and C, or at least, or in this case, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. So I get the gist of what's going on. Like, for the most part, I like where they went with Luke. I do really like this idea of, we were starting to get into it, this idea that Kylo Ren is this super conflicted character. I wanted to ask you guys, is this whole like Kylo being conflicted, well, was that a thing in the Star Wars franchise prior to the
Well,
sequel
he wasn't a character period until this new series.
but I mean,
He
just the
Here's the
idea
thing.
of like
Here's the thing.
what
Here's the thing. I believe, and this is from a friend that I talked about this with. Um, Apparently, he comes out in, I think it's either the comics or the books.
yeah, that's what I heard. I heard like he was in the books or something
but
like
doesn't
that.
Yeah.
didn't Disney like retcon a lot of like the Star Wars extended canon though?
Huh, didn't hear about that. I mean, that
Yeah,
could be true.
that was part of the initial deal with Disney buying out Lucasfilm is that they retcon all of the extended universe.
Well, tell that to them, not me.
Yeah, but I mean, just the idea of like this kind of super conflicted sort of antagonist in terms of he wants to join the dark side, but he has his
Yeah,
leanings like
and
that. Unless I mean,
that's
does unless you count, I guess, Anakin Skywalker.
That's the thing. Like, looking at how they portray him in the film, I just absolutely hate him, and I don't even love hating him. He's just, ah, because we have no clear reason as to why he decided to just, you know, go to the dark side. Two, he comes off as an extremely whiny, impulsive, and tantrum throwing baby. Especially in Force Awakens. I absolutely hated that. At least The Last Jedi, there was a lot less of that. But I think with that, I just couldn't appreciate the character anymore.
See,
For me, he's just like, no.
for me, I just think he is a better version of like, not in terms of better as in like, the light side and the dark side. I'm talking about just as a character. I think he's pretty much a better written version of Anakin Skywalker in the prequels, because he's got that same whiny edge to him. And Luke also
Yeah.
apparently had a bit of that too, but this really emphasized sort of how toxic that mindset could be. And like,
I,
say what you will about him, like whether you like him or not, but his arc is probably one of the few things I like in The Last Jedi, because it's one of the few that felt like it was going somewhere. Like, when we get to talk about Finn, I hated what they did with his character. Fuck that subplot and everything.
Really? Like,
no, dang.
Yeah, I hated what they did with Finn.
huh.
Like, I mean, I guess just the idea I have of the character just does not let me enjoy that whole, kind of like progressive story that we're following about, because I'm like, he doesn't freaking deserve that. Why is he acting this way? It's just, no.
Wait, Bobby, you were saying you were gonna chime in on something?
I don't know if I'd say I hated Worf and when. I just honestly thought he was kind of underutilized in The Last Jedi.
I don't know, I didn't really have a problem.
Yeah.
I just thought it was fun.
Yeah, what I hated it was essentially what they essentially did is give an entire repeat of the arc that they already had in Force Awakens about him. And so by the time he's about to head into that giant laser on the Salt Planet, it's like, on the one hand, I'm glad that they didn't kill him off over there, but overall, I just felt like he was one of the few characters who didn't get any progression from above. He was this whole arc with Rose. I kind of felt like we've already went through this before. It's just the same thing, only annoying. Yeah. I'm with everyone on the Canto Bight casino bullshit, whatever the heck that was. That was annoying as hell.
I am honestly completely lost as to that. Like, I gotta understand, okay, it comes out of nowhere. But I don't have a problem with it.
No, because wait, Bobby looks like he wants to say something right now.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that's the best way to summarize, like, I guess, any issues I personally had with Finn, and that he doesn't get as much progression. Although I honestly thought, they gave him kind of a side mission with Rose, and I honestly thought that was okay. Just my only beef is, it doesn't really progress his character all that much. I mean, all I could really say about the casino scene, while it's out of nowhere, and I will admit, when they had that, that shot where where the camera's moving along through the casino, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, I was just thinking, WTF during that scene. I kind of get what they're going for with how Star Wars is, it's supposed to be, like, inspired by classic lore and classic, like, stories and movies, and I'm just like, are they trying to have a James Bond on montage. Like, I don't know, I got that kind of a
For
vibe.
me,
Like,
for
knowing
me,
Lucas. Well, I know Lucas didn't make this movie, but it is the franchise he created. So, is that supposed to be like their moment?
for me, it just kind of came off as like if you had stayed longer in, like back in New Hope where we had the cantina scene, if you just got a chance to like stick around there and just see stuff happen.
Here's the thing. This is what ticks me off about the Kento Bite thing. Apart from all the common complaints that get brought about it, it feels out of place. It's way too goofy for a movie trying to be too serious up until now. In fact, that's also a tangent. I didn't really like a lot of the humor in this movie, but what I really dislike about that sequence is that up until then, they tried to sell the tension of it being the last stand for the rebels to just these three ships, and it compounds with the whole thing with Holdo not saying anything. It's supposed to be just this rising clock, but what that Canto Bite scene does, it completely killed it in my opinion because it already gives a perfect explanation to how they can escape. Not most of those people didn't get to die. They didn't need to die if they could just keep on sneaking ships one by one into just different planets. Like all of a sudden, you've taken a locked ship subplot, and then oh no, for this one part, people can just one or two people they can just exit out just fine. Like, why didn't you just do that before? In fact, that turned out to be Holdo's plan for specifically a later planet, and the Canto Bite section meant that they failed, which means that everyone else's pod got fucked, and that's why they were getting shot at. So literally, it's a subplot that's meant to diverge just to have a little adventure segment for the kids, and then to basically lead to the whole learning about failure thing, with specifically that subplot failing. But by essence, if you take out that whole subversion with everyone fails in this journey, that whole subplot is completely pointless now. The only point it had now is to just create dire consequences later while filling up time with something that feels like it's already killed any tension whatsoever. So yeah, that's why I hate the
It's a good
title.
argument.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate it. I hated just the idea that anyone can escape with no one noticing right in the middle of this locked ship where, spoiler, they kill off Admiral Akbar in the background. And meanwhile, we're riding space donkeys. Ugh.
Yeah,
peace,
I mean,
Admiral
think
Akbar.
because it was in the background, it was something I didn't really notice.
I will admit the same, but that is a very good point.
Yeah, I think I could tell why you said Stephen. You're saying Stephen that over time it's a movie that you've grown to dislike, more and more.
Yeah.
The only things that I feel could like still save that whole thing, like as far as like an explanation why they were able to do that and why not everyone could have gone, is only the fact of what planet it was, and probably if a whole bunch of rebels just came out of nowhere and stopped on that planet, they'd probably just get, you know, they'd just probably get in the same amount of trouble because it's just all those people who are getting money, giving out weapons and stuff. So they'd be like, shoot, these are the guys that the people we're selling to want to get. You know what? We'll help them. But even then, it's a long shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely understand where you're coming from. Now,
Yeah, like
in real-
it just
in-
felt like something that they wrote in post, like, oh shit, Finn doesn't have an arc. Okay, I'm currently going through script writing right now. It's basically like he opened up Final Draft, he checked between the scenes and thought, okay, where can I cram it out for these two specifically?
Yeah,
Oh,
I also get those kind of vibes too. As far
yeah, I
as
can see that. Can we all agree though? Nothing that happened in the movie was worth um
The social media.
threatening, huh?
Yeah,
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 because that was just why.
yeah,
Come on
yeah,
now.
yeah. Yeah. The problem with Rose's character, none of that had to do with the actress. It was just a shittily written character. If anything, if anything, the blame would be the Ryan Johnson, not her.
And even then, I still liked her. And it's a human being, guys. Come on.
yeah, I got those
You know
vibes
why?
too. Cause like, if anything, there are any problems with Rose's character, it's kind of like my issues with Finn. Albeit Rose is a new character in this movie, whereas Finn we had in the Force Awakens. But yeah, I mean, yeah, she kind of, it's kind of like bumping, like when you like, the best metaphor I could come up with this, it's like if you run a business and you find out there's a new employee at the last second. I'm like, oh, who are you? But yeah, as far as I got those kind of vibes in terms of like, oh, this is Rose. But in the end, I was like, yeah, she's not bad. And kind of like you, Gabby, I was getting those vibes of so why were people getting angry at Kelly Marie Tran? I mean, yeah, I honestly
I
think
mean, it was like it was like they're like, oh, I don't know, I didn't like her acting. It's fine, but you don't harass someone to the point of having to close their social media account. That just, no.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah,
my 2 cents on that whole issue. I heard that she had to like shut down her Instagram or
she
something
did.
like
Yes,
that,
she did.
which I
It
wasn't
was
on
like,
board for. Like, even when I first heard the story before I saw the movie, I was like, really, really, you drove her off Instagram, and now that like I've seen the movie, I'm like, hey,
yeah, it was
hey,
just ridiculous.
yeah. But anyway, be back to talking about the movie itself.
Yeah.
I don't know where
I
Well,
should we
feel
go
I
from
bad.
here.
I already did a lot of down talking. So let's actually talk about stuff we liked in the movie now.
Yay! I really liked how they brought back Yoda.
Mm, yeah.
See, I just absolutely love how they introduced him in The Empire Strikes Back. So seeing him come back like that as like a, was like a his, what is it, like the Force form?
His Force Ghost. That's what my sister
Yes,
calls.
yeah,
Muppet Ghost. I will say I
correct.
was kind of taken back when I saw like I don't know, something about just the way they process the ghost lighting onto a puppet. I was just like, mm. Like it made him look even more of a puppet. So I kind of had to process this in my head. It's like, yeah, it's a lot more jarring than it was in Empire Strikes Back, where they could just work with natural lighting.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was funny.
Oh, I like the
I,
scene. I like the scene where she can. I like the scene where she can literally just call lightning.
I thought that was just like so funny because you're
Mhm.
just like, oh hey, it's Yoda, hi Yoda, and he's just like, let there be lightning.
It's
Oh
almost like they're
shit.
making Yoda sound like he's like Zeus on Mount Olympus or something, which I'm sure there's people out there who are gonna say, hey, well, in some context, yes, he is.
I like that. That's
But yeah, I
funny.
definitely like the scene itself. If anything, what I got most out of the scene was more the intent of basically him telling Luke, hey, mistakes are a part of the learning process. Like I kind of took it as, a very sympathetic scene.
And that's part of what I really enjoyed about the scene because it just brought back that whole kind of vibe that you got back in Empire Strikes Back, where it's like, he seems like he doesn't know what he's doing and, he's just acting real crazy. But low key, you can tell, like, oh, this guy knows absolutely what he's doing and he's actually really cool. Like, he can give you really good advice. So, yeah, I was really glad to see that. Also, I remember I'm kind of partial to practical effects, so I I, I would be lying if I didn't say that I enjoyed that.
Well, like no, I think I no, I whenever that conversation comes up, I just think back to that segment in Brass Held High. It's just good CGI, bad practical. Good practical, bad CGI. Good CGI, bad CGI. Good practical. If you
Oh my
haven't seen that,
god.
if you haven't heard of that one, I can bring up the name of that video. It has to do with like this French comic turned into a bad movie, but it had a pretty interesting use of CGI.
Oh.
Oh yeah, Immortal ad vitam, the untapped expressionism of CGI.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I don't know. Whenever it comes to that whole argument, like I used to be, well, before I started watching, a lot more movies, I used to be one of those people that just associated practical effects with like 50s and 60s movies, like especially like B movies. And then I saw science fiction films that came out in like, well, one in the late 60s and one a couple in the 80s, and I'm like, oh, this is why people like practical effects so much. I won't say what those three movies are because I will not I don't shut up about them. But if you guys have been following me, and I'm sure you and Gabby, you know full well which three I'm talking about, you get the idea. But I don't need to go there again. I know just won't shut up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What did you like, Bobby?
What did I like? There you
Yeah.
go. What was it? All right, we didn't really talk about the time that Ray spent with Luke, right? Like that was that. I mean, that was like the final scene in The Force Awakens. When she tries to hand him, his lightsaber, and then of course Last Jedi starts off. He's like, throw it away, or at least he tries to.
I
Yeah.
But in
kind of
terms,
wish they kept that. This might sound strange considering how much I like porgs, but I kind of wish they kept the deleted scene version where the porgs play around with it. But see, kid, this is what happens when you play with lightsabers. You get a porg who.
oh,
No.
Hey,
Why?
it'll explain where Chewie got his deep fried porg.
that's like the one joke I, kind of, cringe laughed at in The Last Jedi. Yeah, the scene where Chewie tries to eat his pork, and then all the porks are looking at him like,
Why?
"Ah."
And
I'm
then
trying
there's
to
this
make a
one,
sad
that
face.
was my dad.
Oh
When
God,
I
I'm
look
trying to think
back
of
at
that.
this scene, I don't know whether to think that they're actually upset by seeing him eat one of their own kind, or they actually want to try it themselves.
You just made this a lot more darker than I ever thought it would.
This is
I
yeah.
don't
Porgs are
know.
cannibals.
I mean, no offense to you, but it sounds like one of those Facebook posts I would come across where they look at it from a different point of view that makes it sound even worse. Because, yeah, then again, you only had their facial expressions. So, because, like, like, I'm sure a lot of you guys, when I saw the movie, I thought that look meant, oh no, Chewie is, eating one of their own. But, yeah, then again, they could be giving that really sad look as an
You're not
indication
gonna
of
give
we're
me
hungry.
Eh, they have plenty to do
the
on that island.
what's it called, the Kershaw effect? You
Yeah,
guys
like
know what I'm talking about? Yeah, where
What?
it's the experiment with the bowl of soup and the guy. And
Oh!
okay, you got it. You got it. Okay, never mind. All right, you were saying, Bowie. I'm sorry.
Now, where were you going with that, Gabby?
No, because I think that's like an example of it. Because then it's like because we ourselves like decide what we think that means.
Mm-hmm.
And even though
Oh.
they use the same expression, it could be used to mean like all different kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, speaking of humor, that was like the one joke I remember, remotely laughing at. I mean, I know, like, Star Wars is supposed to be, like, even for Force Awakens, I definitely remember even had a few gags. I mean, most infamous, well, not infamously, because a lot of people I remember even laughed
Oh.
at scene when we went to see it. Like, there was that scene where, you know, Finn was, like, kind of briefly talking about what he thinks the Force is, and Han, says, that's not how the Force works. You know, so I just kind of want to bring that up because I don't even remember, that many gags in The Last Jedi. So might be a testament
The
to the film's writing.
the
But
other one with the maid looking people with Luke. Remember
what?
where they keep getting like hit by Rey's like blaster or like a rock that she cuts off, and it's like
Oh, you mean those fish maids?
yes, the fish maids.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
one I don't remember too well.
Bobby.
Oh,
It's those ones that kept on shouting at Ray because she kept destroying their shit on the island.
I think I remember that.
Like
oh, that
she
was
slices a
funny.
rock with the lightsaber, and the rock ends up destroying their carriage.
And then she shoots her blaster because she sees
Kylo.
Kylo, and then it goes through her wall and it goes into another wall, and they're trying to like clean it or
Fix it.
whatnot, and then
Yeah, that
it
brings up
just
because
hits the
okay,
wall.
like that was actually because you were guys asking my thoughts. Actually, come to think of it, you guys bringing up the scenes where Ray could see Kylo through the Force, which I know,
Okay, yeah, that's
a lot of
interesting.
people could get into a debate about. Did they like? Did they use the Force in a sort of out of character way in this movie? But actually, those scenes, I can't believe we didn't talk about them just yet. The scenes where Kylo and Rey were able to kind of see each other. I thought those were pretty cool.
Oh,
Or,
that was pretty cool. Like how it came, how they ended up. I think it was one of those scenes where they came out with the meme with Kylo with the grocery bags. He's shirtless. Like, look, mom.
Oh yeah.
funny enough, I know that the current editor-in-chief at the paper I used to work at watches my videos, and I think I heard she has like a big crush on Adam Driver. So when that scene popped up, like when you saw him shirtless, I'm like, ooh, I wonder if my editor-in-chief saw that.
Well, hey, yeah, I've seen. Well, hey, I've seen him like not. I know that he's in some. Oh yeah, girls. Yeah, I think he has a shirtless scene in that TV series. So that's probably where they got it from.
See, for me, it's just like I already had to see Tom Hiddleston's butt in Crimson Peak. I don't care anymore.
Oh, come on, just look how built that emo dude is.
I don't. I think no.
I just like how I just like how the character as the internet perceives him. Like we're currently going through like this anti-fascist state right now. Like we're trying to combat that, and yet this guy is pretty much the epitome of like my fascist boyfriend. It's like just
Oh,
the
oh.
ideal toxic bad boy.
Why do I see that turning into like a web comic
Oh
now?
no, it's already a thing. It's been a thing for like a year or so.
I know.
There are people
I
who,
think
even after that ending, they hardcore ship Ray and Kylo Ren.
I don't like that though. That just seems so weird.
I kind of get it.
No.
I kind of get it because, like I once said this in I agree with Red Letter Media that the movie should have ended at the handshake. Like, does she take the handshake or not? Instead of going into the Salt Planet, because that would be like one hell of a cliffhanger.
That would
Yeah,
have
it
been
would be a
cool.
cliffhanger.
You
Yeah.
definitely do feel the tension there.
I think that might piss some people off though, because I remember that was like the
What?
one
It
scene
hasn't
in
already
the trailer.
pissed people off.
Well, you know, like what I was gonna get into is that because that scene was like that was a cliffhanger in itself in the trailer. Remember, like in one of the trailers for Last Jedi, everybody was
It was?
panicking. Yeah, that the wasn't it? Like there was. Are you talking about the scene where
I don't remember.
right around the time when Snoke gets axed, which I was like, oh, he's dead. Well, I guess goodbye, Snoke. Are you talking about the scene where Kylo, like, holds out like his hand and I
Yeah,
remember
like
people...
the Jedi let it all die. Like
All right, because I remember, Steven, you said that the scene where the lightsaber breaks, you said, oh, that's where they should have let the movie end on. Which, actually, come to think of it, yeah, they probably should, because when that Salt Planet scene came up, I was under the mindset of oh, we're still going on. Which, that's another thing that I felt in this movie that I didn't feel in The Force Awakens, and that you could really feel the length, especially halfway through.
there's a specific reason why. It's that here's the thing. This movie is longer than any of the previous Star Wars movies, even the prequels. And this movie gets compared to Empire Strikes Back a lot, but let me tell you this. Empire Strikes Back, even if it had its diversions, knew exactly how long to linger on a specific subplot and to make sure none of them detracted from the other. This one has two major subplots and an extended climax. It did not, and really, when considering that, when you look at the actual story, it's pretty thin. It's very thin what they've written here. Like, you can literally summarize, like, we can go on and on about the specifics, but the fact remains that for a movie that's nearly 2.5 hours long, it felt like they wrote less than 2 hours of content for actual story.
Yeah, I would say the same. Like, even though I did like some of the scenes that people were very mad at, I will say, because it's like, especially, we talked about how, Finn has a side plot that doesn't really progress as his character and things like that. And, especially when you add on the climax, which, again, I also felt that they didn't have to go to the Salt Planet. I could definitely see why. I'm just trying to think, what was it for me? Because I thought it was like I don't know if it was a pacing issue, because I don't think there were scenes that I personally thought, okay, please move on, and from here I don't need to see more of this. So
I felt like the entire climax on the Salt Planet where they were chasing after the laser, that felt like it went too long because, let's be real here, it's another case where they set up something and they fail, which means it didn't really have to go on that long. If they made, like, I know that they put it all in the trailer, them going through that Salt Planet with, like, the red sand showing up as they run past, but they don't make it to the gate. So what could have happened is they could have just reached the planet and the Sith were already there, and so they could have just been trying to find a way out as Luke went up to them, because that's one thing I don't have a problem with. Like, of the things people complain about, that's one thing I don't have a problem with, which is Luke being able to give an astral projection over there, because that's, as Ryan Johnson pointed out in his Twitter, that's actually in the Sacred Jedi text, and it kind of lends to that whole theme of like kind of tricking Kylo Ren into thinking he got what he wants, but not. Like, that whole segment, I'm fine with. I even like his tearful goodbye with Leia and Chewie. I didn't mind that part, but all of that stuff in between, I just realized, wow, you could literally cut most of this, and this wouldn't make a difference. So it just makes an already long section feel even longer because all that really matters is maybe the last 10 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I honestly thought, well, because of the trailers, they definitely gave away their details, but we didn't exactly know. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't exactly know where the Salt Planet scene would fit. I just remembered that they really hyped up that scene, so I thought, I was even thinking while I was watching the movie, when is that scene gonna come up? Because I was just thinking the entire time, where is it gonna fit in? And I just remember, like, when they got there, I was just like, oh, we're going to Salt Planet now?
Yeah, this movie just really it need. I don't know who Ryan Johnson's editor was for this movie, but this needed a second edit.
Ooh,
I
Jared.
could agree with that. I think working out the kinks definitely necessary.
What exactly do you mean by that, though, Stephen? Because I think for me, I see this as more as you could have done at least one or two more rewrites, but could you tell us how this is more of an edit?
Well, a rewrite would be ideal, but I'd say like scenes specifically that around the subplots and with the finale, like those bits. There's a lot of uh, content in between because you're trying to emphasize just how much it leads to failure. We don't need to drag on with subplots that are gonna fail eventually. You can just set something up and then reach towards the payoff because the point is there is no payoff. We don't need a lot of that in between because all you're gonna end up with like, okay, we failed. So all of that build up till then was kind of pointless. And maybe this would be fine if, like I said, they ended at specifically the point where the lightsaber breaks because hey, that's still about 2 hours, maybe less than 2 hours. That's tolerable. But once you start approaching the 2.5 hour point, you better pay attention to just how many minutes are on the clock.
Well,
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah, I've also sat through my share of really long, movies too, like, especially those that get into the 3 hour mark. And for me, it's just if I could feel the length, and then that's, obviously
Like
not good.
here's a movie that reached near the 3 hour mark. I have no problems with Fellowship of the Ring, Schindler's List,
Yeah,
the same movie that came out that same year, Blade Runner 2049, the Cloud Atlas. The secret behind those 3 hours movies is that they never waste any time. The reason why they can keep going that long and not keep you tired is there's always this sense of progression, even throughout some of the longer scenes. So the fact this movie is 2.5 hours but feels nearly 4 hours is a problem. It's the same problem with a lot of the Transformers films, and actually most of Michael Bay's filmography in general, if we're being fair.
yeah. I also felt the same too. Schindler's List, again, it has that kind of sense of progression that, even if there were scenes that I thought that, kind of like, oh, what's going on, it still kept going. And 2049, even though, yeah, there were, especially in the second half, I thought there were a couple scenes that were like, oh, what are we doing here? For me, it wasn't that the movie went too long. It was just that I thought there were a couple scenes that were kind of slow. Whereas in the case of Last Jedi, it was one of those I could feel the length, kind of movies.
And also to clarify, part of the reason why I really hate that Act 4 also is that when I first saw it in theaters, that was around the time I needed to take a piss.
That could have done it.
Yes, I felt every minute, all of those 24.5 hours. Just when is this gonna end? I need to go.
Me or the three of us
Yeah,
just
and
have
I
really weird movie theater bathroom like.
Yeah.
oh, but
And it's the weird thing because I remember you mentioning that Stephen with the length of the film,
Yeah.
and I've always come out as the person who has a hard time keeping focused on films and staying engaged.
Oh yeah, I showed you
Oddly
Angel's
enough,
Egg and you
I
fell
nearly
asleep.
knocked out. And as far as like when I went to go see it in the theaters, I had no problem. I was engaged. I was hyped up. I was pumped. I watched the whole thing. So I was like, oh, hey, I don't know. I thought it was cool. And the next time when we were watching it, Bobby,
Mhm.
You passed out.
Yeah, you even like fell asleep like halfway through The Last Jedi. Like when I saw
Where
that,
did you
like
pass out? Where did you
she was
pass
like
out? I need to
halfway.
know.
Like I don't remember where specifically, but I remember halfway I turned and I saw Gabby and she was sleeping on her couch. Like so, I'm guessing you're also getting second viewing, displeasure.
You know what?
I wouldn't say
Gab,
displeasure. I was really tired. I wasn't bored with it or anything. I was just kind of like lulled into it, like, oh, this is nice.
you know what?
Okay.
You know what, Gabby? You know what, Gabby? Hold on a sec. I know exactly what we need to watch next time.
Oh no.
Uh,
Oh God, I'm scared.
like
Save me.
just to test just to
I'll
test our
bring
patience.
I'll
I'll
bring
sit
I'll
through
bring
a
a whole
long
bunch of
movie, but
sugar.
only if it.
I'll
Do
bring a
you
whole bunch of sugars. What I'm gonna do? Hell
do,
yeah.
no? Do you know what we need for your short attention span brain? We need to show you a movie that is gonna have something, whether it's story, whether it's something blowing up, whether it's just people being offensive as all hell. This is gonna keep you awake for the same length as The Last Jedi. We need to show you Michael Bay's masterpiece, Bad Boys 2.
Oh God. What?
Yes.
I'm kind of interested, but wait, it's 2.5 hours also.
Oh yeah. This right here, this set right here, Bad Boys 2 is pretty much just peak misanthropy and misogyny and homophobia and just everything, offend everyone, blow up everyone. That is the movie. Bad Boys 2 is pretty much Michael Bay says, fuck everything, but hey, it looks cool when I blow it the hell up.
That sounds like Michael Bay.
It is the purest Michael Bay movie you will ever find. It has everything.
Dear God.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I
gee.
could see myself, sitting through it. Albeit, I don't know, have I ever sat for a movie where I kind of just stayed awake because of the effects and the sort of shock value? I'm not really sure.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a discussion for another day because, I can't really say. I just think of long movies are either they really, really interest me and I see why they're super, super long, or they just make me want to fall asleep.
See, for me, it's like I can also enjoy all of the Hobbit movies. I enjoyed every single one of them. I thought they were amazing. But I think that's more to do with my liking the Hobbit.
It's at least something you're invested in.
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah, don't tell me about The Hobbit. It's just the Battle of Five Armies. I felt, you know what? I complained all throughout this about The Last Jedi. I would watch that any day over Battle of the Five Armies.
I can admit that. That was just kind of like really, really dragged
Like
on.
Battle of the Five Armies was basically that Salt Planet section, but a whole movie.
Yeah.
Oh
And
my
see, the thing
god.
was, it's like, if you look at the animated film, because there's like an old animated film that interprets the story,
Yeah, it's
that whole battle takes up like 10 minutes,
yeah, you're talking about the
maybe a little
Rankin
more.
Bass. Yeah, the
Yeah, the
Rankin Bass.
Rankin Bass one. That was my childhood. I love that.
We only
But yeah,
saw
there
like
was only like the.
we
Uh-huh.
only saw like the first maybe 20 minutes of it in my elementary school, so I never watched it ever since. I
I
never finished it.
owned it. I
Oh
owned
dang!
it. Really got to sit down and like go through all of Lord of the Rings, either in book or movie form. But I heard there was a book before that called The Hobbit, and I was like, they have a movie of it, and it's a cartoon. I need to watch this. And I was like, can we get this? So hell yeah. Sorry, I just kind of got sidetracked there.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I really love The Hobbit.
I mean, what else could we really say? We talked about the casino scene, the Salt Planet scene. What about? I mean, I was about to end with a bombshell, but I really want to ask you guys how you feel about how they use the Force in this movie, because I heard there's some people saying, well, not even just the Force, but some of
they're talking about Leia, aren't they? They're talking about Leia,
and even Holdo, when she cuts the ship in half. I remember
that wasn't really what Holdo did. That wasn't really the Force. That was just the sheer badassery of light speed.
Because it's funny enough, I bumped into, I think it was, I don't remember where I saw the video, but I remember people were pissed off at that because somebody brought the argument, well, if they could do that, why didn't they just drive a ship through the Death Star in, the previous films? I don't know, I wanted to ask you guys about that. I remember hearing somebody brought that up. Admittedly, it sounds, like whoever brought, the people that got angry at that scene that were saying, oh, it ruins Star Wars.
Are they talking about, how they did it with Empire Strikes Back?
No, they never, all throughout Star Wars, no one has rammed light speed. I mean, I guess the only reason why they wouldn't, in perspective, considering just how powerful it is that it is kill off anyone else in the radius.
That's true.
If they sent out any fighters or so, those fighters are dead. I mean, you saw how many Star Destroyers that one ship managed to kill once it hit light speed.
Yeah.
But hey, speaking of which, you all remember that video of how I thought Leia should have died?
Yes, Leia just cutting.
The match cut with that light speed. If the Force is gonna bring her back like Superman, go full Force. Just make it so that she wipes out the entire Empire with that one light speed.
That would have been awesome. I would be so satisfied with that. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to bring up where I saw a certain person's review, but I kind of peeked at somebody's YouTube review of The Last Jedi, and they were saying, the Force isn't like Superman where you could just, fly from the sky, because there's that one scene where, Leia gets blown out of her ship, and she just, pulls a Superman, and she's able to fly to another ship. Was that too ridiculous?
Yeah, here's the thing. There was always an idea, even up to Return of the Jedi, that Leia had potential with the Force. I mean, that's the whole reason Darth Vader said, if you will not turn, then perhaps she will. But my problem isn't really that she could use the Force. It's just how the way Rian Johnson directed that scene, it looked super goofy. It really looked like she was coming down with Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I'll admit that. The concept works. It was not executed well.
Yeah. It just looked super goofy the way he did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because even when I was watching that scene, it kind of took me out of it for a second.
I was too caught up having the Carrie Fisher feels to really care. It's just
yeah. Yeah, it is kind of awkward to watch that scene, now after she passed on.
Yeah, it's I can see some people seeing that as actually disrespectful, considering in real life she didn't manage to cheat death, and yet in this fantasy world she did. In fact, she's the only character of the main trio to cheat death.
Now that you put it that way, that really stings.
Yeah.
And especially, but what stings for me more so, and I'm not saying they should cut it out, it's just that, it unfortunately, happen is that like for the second act, she's even like in a sort of coma, right?
Oh yeah.
And like watching
Oh
that
yeah,
scene,
yeah,
it was like oh, this is really awkward to watch.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but
That was kind of oof.
I kind of wanted to ask you guys about the very end of the movie, which again I brought up in the intro that there will be spoilers, so no surprises
I
here.
think I think for a movie that was trying to be as dark as it is, I think the tone of that scene is way too encouraging. Like I think even though you think to how Force Awakens is a lighter movie, but its ending is a lot more ominous. It actually felt like almost like the two endings should have switched now because think uh, think back to The Empire Strikes Back. Toward the end, a lot while it does end on a sort of optimistic note, there is that sense of somber to it as they're looking at the remaining spaceships after Luke just lost his arm. It kind of leaves you on that sweet spot, but I just hated how almost celebratory the ending to The Last Jedi felt. Like when they're all on that ship and they're all giving each other high five, they have that encouraging music. It's like we got all that we need, and then it talks about the little child who is hearing these legends about Luke Skywalker, and oh, he might have the Force too. It's like we just saw most of our cast members die. Why are you ending this like it's this? Ah!
Cause I guess that was intended to be more of like something to like take the edge off because they thought
It
there was so
killed the end
much.
for me. Like there, I, yeah, I keep on talking about how I do not like the last act of this movie. That's the kind of shit I mean.
Yeah, but I actually wanted to ask you guys about the kind of elephant in the room regarding the ending of The Last Jedi, and that is that Luke actually kicks the bucket at the end.
See,
Oh, I
I
thought
wish
that
it.
was very well done. I
Yeah,
actually thought that was cool.
I actually wish that it ended with that kind of tone. Like if they just could have maintained that toward the end instead of this cheery bullshit at the end.
Because
Like,
even then, you'd still have that sort of like positive edge to it. You know,
and
like
I
it would
love.
still be like on a somewhat good note, but then you'd still be like, oh, it's so sad though, because
It also mirrors his first, one of his first scenes in Star Wars: A New Hope. Like it actually mirrored like the way he dies staring at the sunset like that.
Mm-hmm. Symbolism. But yeah, I guess I don't know why. I just feel really conflicted that throughout this movie, we watch, Luke is like he doesn't want he initially doesn't want to train Rey because of what happened between him and Kylo Ren, and I don't know, maybe I just misunderstand the ending, but I basically saw the ending as so we see like his kind of projection, like he's not actually on the Salt Planet, and Kylo thinks he could try to axe him off, and obviously he can't. And then when that scene clears up, Luke basically dies because that projection like basically took up a lot of energy. You guys know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Is it just something that I don't understand as like somebody who hasn't seen many of the Star Wars films? Because I just was honestly kind of confused. I thought his death scene was gonna be like something really crazy.
no, I think they always try to keep it sort of like, well, I think it depends on the context. Sometimes they go with that, sometimes you have like moments like this, because you also have, you know, back in Empire Strikes Back with Yoda, kind of gets sort of the same treatment, just not as glamorous, I guess. But he just turns into like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm already, well aware. I already kind of know who lives and dies in the original trilogy.
no, 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 yeah, but I mean, it's like how they approach it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially with Jedi Masters, you kind of see that sort of like it's like in Kung Fu Panda with Master Oogway with the flowers, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, I just didn't get it, so it's like, so he basically, comes back and once again proves to Kylo that he can't beat him, and then he dies. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe I misunderstood that, but I'm just like, that's his death scene? You know what I'm saying?
Because I think the idea is that like he just sort of like used up all of his essence type dealio, where it's like there's just nothing left of him now. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's how I thought. That's how I thought of it. I don't know. What do you think, Steven?
With what?
With like making sense out of Luke Skywalker's death scene.
I don't see what the problem with it is.
Like Bobby says he basically doesn't understand like how that came about. Like, okay, he wasn't doing anything that actually hurt him, so why is he gone?
Think of it kind of as think of it as like a skill in an MMO. It's one of those major ones, but in this case, it's one that deletes your account.
Yeah, that's a good
So
way of thinking of
you
it.
can only use
Yeah.
it once. You can only use it
Does
once,
that
and it takes out all of your life force.
does that make sense?
Sorta, I
I
guess.
mean, Ryan Johnson did point to the text where exactly that was one of the major Jedi abilities.
Like, in terms of the ability, it makes sense. I guess I'm just thinking, like, but in this kind of a scene, like I get the whole idea
Oh,
of, like, Luke, like, he's basically, out of it. Like, this is it. There's not much he can do anymore.
I feel like it was just a well executed Deus Ex Machina, because it was needed. Obviously, I can't think of a way where they could have like fixed that whole situation without doing something like that. I guess to make it less of like, oh yeah, see everything's fine now. They're like, oh well, now this happens. So I can see why they went on with it in that way. Um, I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that, Stephen?
I don't know. I guess for me, I was just looking for a bit more, closure, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it doesn't feel. I guess a big thing is it doesn't feel purely because of what his role actually is through most of the movie. It's just staying on an island. It doesn't feel as climactic as Han Solo's death in Force Awakens.
hmm Which I'm not saying it needed to be, exactly like that. Like, I'm not saying it has to, end that kind of dramatically. Like, I think the way they carried it out was, sincere and, subtle, but it works effectively. I think just for, the reason being, like, this is his last moment, I was just like, eh? Again, kind of goes back to what we were saying about the whole Salt Planet scene. About how, whoa, we're still going on. I don't know. I mean, that was just kind of my take on it.
Oh, it's kind of like how Steven was saying, like it would have been good to end on a note like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh boy.
Yeah, we've been talking for a while.
Yeah. Over an hour, I might add.
Oh,
And we only
oh
scratched the surface.
wow.
We only scratched the surface. That's what Last Jedi does to you.
Fair point, fair point.
Yeah. Although, if we were to talk about every single detail, then, what's the. Although, be it, I'm guessing if people watch this video, they've probably either already seen the movie or don't mind spoilers, albeit we just gave some pretty big spoilers. I mean, I don't know. I guess it cuts back to what I was saying about how when they try to do something, really big and dramatic, I think, like you said, Stephen, it just cuts away a lot of the sort of hype, that they were going to build up this stuff. We think that Snoke is going to be the big bad guy. Oh, he's killed off. With Luke's stuff, though, I kind of, sort of get it in terms of, you know what I'm saying? Like, in terms of, I wasn't expecting him to be, like, super built up and, he was going to be, fighting right alongside, the principal cast, which, I don't know, because I often think about how they really try to have something, like, when I think of the new sort of the new characters that we've seen in both movies so far, like Rey, Finn, and even yes, Poe is in this movie quite a bit more. Albeit, all I can think of is him bickering, with Hodo. But I don't know. I just felt like once again going back to how they were kind of underutilized. I mean, Rey's scenes were where I liked them just fine. In Finn's, I feel like it's almost like they just kind of gave him like, oh, we'll give you a side mission and that's it. Yeah, I don't know. Somehow I managed to spin this all the way back to the near beginning of the movie. But I don't know. Do you guys have anything more to add?
I think one last thing is that I don't agree with the whole not with the with some defenders of the movie of Holdo and her keeping her keeping her plan secret from everyone because it I get the message it's trying to hammer in, but for one thing, I don't agree with the message, which is just basically follow blind leadership, even though it's unclear whether the leader is even doing a good job. Period.
That's true.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah,
Yeah, if anything, like, it just kind of made me really confused about Holdo and not being really sure if, like, I think she's a good leader and that kind of a thing. Like, I guess, it's their way of building anticipation, but it just made me feel really confused about her character.
Same. Same. I actually thought something was brewing there, like she was up to something, but
I wouldn't say
nope.
she was up to something, but like especially the scenes where Poe especially is like very very skeptical of her. I kind of feel like Poe was justified. I mean, albeit you could credit Holden with being the one that cuts through the ship at light speed, but for at the time I was just really confused about who she was. I didn't think she was gonna like go bad or anything, and like it wasn't that level of mass confusion for me. But I'm just like are you sure you know what you're? I don't even know what you're doing, to be quite honest.
uh, okay. We've gone on a long time, so I think just to ease it off, end it on a good note.
Hmm.
Let's name let's name three of our favorite scenes from this movie, starting with you, Bobby.
I guess, like for me, I do like the scenes the most on the island where Ray and Luke were. I like the training scenes. I like where they were going with how Ray and Kyle were able to see each other with the Force. Like Ray's kind of getting her understanding. Like if there's any kind of scenes that I could point to and say, oh yeah, I really really like them, I'd say kind of the island scenes. And that's also where we get to see Yoda's Force Ghost again. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, Gabby.
Porgs. The scene with Yoda, I really liked uh Luke's involvement in the story, like all the scenes having to do with him. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all of
Steven?
Luke, like outside of the out of place joke, just Luke trying to get Ray to be more force sensitive. I love that whole artsy montage where she's learning how the force flows through all of nature, including what's alive and what's dead. That felt like something almost out of a Terrence Malick movie, like the way he likes to capture nature photography. Really like that sequence. I really, really adored the dual lightsaber scene where they're in right after killing Snoke. They face off against all of the Red Palace members.
Oh yeah.
I call the Red Palace like they're serving Korean barbecue. No, it's like the Red Knights essentially. Like that whole fight sequence is just beautifully choreographed and showcased, and it's also a really cool. It's just a really cool place to set a fight in the Red Room.
Hmm.
That was really cool.
And lastly, let's see. I guess the last sequence would be. It, I want to say it's the Lightspeed crash, but then again, I feel like it'd be better if Leia was the Lightspeed crash. So I'll just go with Mark Hamill's death. So yeah, those would be my three.
All right, cool. So I guess we'll leave it off with this. So again, me personally, I like The Last Jedi. I just think there was, the movie itself kind of went too long, and there were a couple things where I kind of feel needed some more progression. And even when there were scenes where they tried to give it some progression, it just left to a lot of anticlimactic stuff. So, you guys,
I'm on the same boat.
Steven?
Mm, I'm kind of okay with it as a movie on its own, but I think it's in a way almost a franchise killer. So maybe I don't know. Maybe episode 9 might ease the pain, but for now, I'm pretty disappointed by it.
Fair enough. Yeah, we could only hope. I mean, then again, we don't know too much about episode 9, aside from mainly in that J.J. Abrams is coming back, but we'll see where it goes. Right, so I guess we'll leave it off here. Thank you, Stephen and Gaby, for coming on once again.
Thank you for having us.
Alrighty, so I guess we'll leave it off here with that said. And of course, people in the comment section, please post your thoughts down below. I'd be very interested because I know I don't really post a lot of Star Wars videos, but I really like making reviews of the movies I get to see, which I know I should be doing a lot more of. I know, like, for my Holly reviewers, in case you guys are wondering which movie or special I'll be checking out next, it's gonna be Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean. I just watched it last night and thought it was pretty neat. So, for you guys, for people out there watching who are interested in my holiday reviews, be on the lookout for that. So, post your thoughts down below on The Last Jedi. And with that being said, I think we'll end it off here. So, I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Or the cute.
Of course.